All right, now let's get to Ketanji Brown Jackson cannot say what a woman is. I'm going to go play it again. It's a 2-minute clip. I will watch it. Maybe I'll cut it off or skip, but I think we need to watch it because and we're going to actually learn some interesting science out of this as well. And I'm just going to have to go to my Twitter feed and do this because I can't find it. This is from yesterday. Here we go.
Writing for the majority, Justice Ginsburg's.
Let's go here.
Senator,
you know,
race or
let's listen to this.
national origin classifications. Physical differences between men and women, however, are enduring. The two sexes are not fungible. A community made up exclusively of one sex is different from a community composed of both. Do you agree with Justice Ginsburg that there are physical differences between men and women that are enduring?
Now, in fairness to Jackson, it's not clear that the summary by what's her name again? I forget the person asking the question. It's not clear. She's summarizing it. And so the normal defense as a lawyer, if I'm a lawyer or I'm a witness, I'm saying, I'm not sure I agree with your characterization of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's summary. Like, you read it and then you gave it your own synopsis, your own summary. So the fair response would be, I'm not sure that your summary of what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said is entirely accurate. So I'm not sure I can agree with it. To which the obvious retort would just be, well, in your humble opinion, are there enduring differences? But forget what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said. Are there differences?
Senator,
we did this with Zuckerberg. I don't know if in their training, if in their rehearses, they say start every sentence with either or senator. And I'm not picking on Jackson here. Everyone seems to do it. Senator Zuckerberg couldn't stop doing it. It was like his way of getting his thoughts in order, but I would say getting his story in order. But yeah.
Respectfully, am not familiar with that particular quote or case.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to.
Now, under U.S. constitutional law, I don't know if this case that was just cited is like one of those seminal cases that everyone is supposed to know about it, like it's Roe v. Wade or Dred Scott or New York Times versus Sullivan. I don't know if it's one of those seminal cases, so I don't know if her not knowing it is itself a flaw, an issue. But okay, she doesn't know it. She doesn't want to talk about it.
okay.
Comment as to whether.
All right. I'd love to get your opinion on that, and you can submit that. Do you
Get your
interpret
opinion on
Justice
that.
Ginsburg's meaning of men and women as male and female?
Now, again, here, if I were the witness or I'm a lawyer, I'm saying, okay, wait, you're using different terms here. Man and woman, male and female. One sounds like it might be cultural definitions. The other one might be biological. So again, whatever. And that's just if I want to play devil's advocate, but it's clear the question being asked and it gets to it right now.
Again, because I don't know the case. I don't know how I interpret it. I need to read the whole
Okay.
thing. You know,
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
can I provide a definition?
Mhm.
No,
Yeah,
I can't.
you can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the meaning
biologist.
of the word woman?
So there we go. David Anber had a very astute observation. I can't give you the definition. I'm not a biologist. Now, I'm sure other people have said this because it's like in a game of chess. There's a good move where if anybody looks at the board, they'd know what would be the good move. This is the good move. Doesn't her answer suggest that she believes the definition is therefore defined by biology? I can't tell you what a man and woman is because I'm not a biologist. Seems to presuppose the hotly disputed conclusion that there is, in fact, a biological difference between the two sexes. Set aside gender and all the other stuff. There is a biological difference, and it's up to biologists to do it. And so she's saying, I'm not a biologist. I can't. Okay, good. Well, you just in your answer presupposed, effectively baked into the conclusion, there is a biological difference and it's measurable and scientific, which I thought in certain realms of the social medias would be a cancelable offense, but we'll see what happens. Another person, humorously said, "Well, can you define what a biologist is?" I mean, it's all, there's an aspect of this which is almost, what's the word? Semantical Zenonian type arguments that you can get into. For those of you who don't know, going back to my philosophy days. Hello, Lisa. Going back to my philosophy days, Zeno's paradox. There's a few of them. The arrow in motion, the arrow at flight is never in motion. And the idea there is that, an arrow in flight, it moves. But at any point in time, it necessarily, by definition, can only occupy its own space in time. So how does it go from, if you break it down in blocks, block A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If the arrow is 5 blocks long, how does it make that next skip to the next 5 blocks, which are different than the current 5 blocks? So the arrow, you agree that at this point in time, it occupies this space. Well, how does it get to the next space? It would have to go through space, and therefore would have to occupy 2 different points in time at any given point in time. That's the arrow paradox. What was the other one? That it's impossible to get from point A to point B, because in order to get from point A to point B, they're all sort of variations of the same thought experiment. To get from point A to point B, you got to get through the halfway point, and you got to get through the halfway point of that halfway point. And there are, we all agree, an infinite many halfway points in between any given 2 points, such that in order to get from point A to point B, you have to traverse the infinite, which is impossible. So you can never get from point A to point B except with our own eyes. And this was Socrates or Plato's response. We just saw the turtle get from point A to point B. So that philosophical breakdown aside, already answered. Check it out earlier. That philosophical question aside, look, okay, what's a woman? Can you offer me a definition of a woman? Like I said, I could conceive of a lawsuit where the central issue is the definition of the term woman. I can conceive of it. And so this judge is going to say, well, if I give you the definition now, basically I'm prejudging any case that might ever come before me in which what is at issue is the definition of the term itself, woman. And by the way, if she had given that answer, I think it would have been exponentially better than the answer that she did give. I can't give you the definition of a woman. I'm not a biologist. Well, like a number of other people humorously noted, I'm not a veterinarian, but I can tell you what a dog is. I'm not a mechanic, but I can tell you what a car is. And it's quite analogous, because exceptions aside, by and large, we can always identify members of a group. We can identify a dog of a group. There might be some exceptions where, I didn't know that was actually technically a canine. And I'm thinking of a meerkat. I don't think meerkats are canines. Let me just go check. There might be an outlier example that might be a canine, but you never knew it. Meerkat canines. Are meerkat is a meerkat a cat? It's not a member of the cat family. Okay. Is a meerkat a canine? So they're weasels. It doesn't look like they're canines. So a meerkat, funny enough, someone might think it's a cat or a member of the cat family, but it's not. Some people might think a prairie dog. Let's see if a prairie dog is a canine. I think prairie dogs are canines. Oh, despite the name, they are not actually canines. Check this out. I'll bring this one up. This would be the perfect example, people, where 99% of the time, you don't have to be an expert to know what fits into a category, but there might be some exceptions where you just make a mistake. Hold on. We're going to get to an even cooler scientific example soon enough. And I don't even want to give you the heads up. Where is it? Oh, I can't find it. Whatever. Okay, so just trust me. It's in Wikipedia. It says prairie dogs are not canines. Why can't I find it? I just had it. You know what? Forget it. We're going here, and we're going to go. People may not. Are prairie dogs canines? Here we go. So here, just so you take my word for it, you don't take my word for it. Despite the name, they are not actually canines. Look how cute they are. Oh, What are these animals, or are these just like the cutest thing? This can't be real. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna get me a prairie dog. So they're not canines. It would be one of those examples where you say, okay, fuck, I'm not an expert, but I can identify it 99% of the time. Can you define a woman? Well, let's not even ask the judge this. Let's just see what the definition of woman is. Now, Tim Pool did an interesting video on this as well, and I sort of, if you've seen that, this might be repetitive. Just go to the definition of woman, and we'll see where this can get thorny. So is that pronounced woman, or is that woman? I don't know I don't know what these phonetics mean. An adult female human being. At some point, we agree that definitions get circular, but the definition of a woman, according to Google, and this is Google Dictionary or whichever dictionary this is, which one is it? No, whatever. Is an adult female human being. Okay, well that's good. Except in as much as if you don't know what female means. So the next obvious question is, what is female? And before we get there, let's just see. I see the COP, which I made a mistake on what it was. Did I just tune in to see you melt down? What wormhole did I find? Meerkats and arrows. So a woman is an adult female human being. Okay, what's female? Share screen. Why do I keep screwing this up? I don't even know that a producer would help with this, but what is a female? Definition. Female, adjective, of or denoting the sex that can bear offspring or produce eggs. Actually, let's just open this up. Distinguished biologically by the production of gametes, ova, which can be fertilized by male gametes. So this seems like a very good definition, a very accurate definition of female, which is baked into the definition of woman. A woman is an adult female, which is an adult human of the sex that can bear offspring or produce eggs, distinguished biologically by the production of gametes. And this is where, we want to get Zenonian in terms of the paradox linguistics. Well, there are people who are going to rightly say that there are women, adult females, who cannot bear offspring or who do not produce eggs. And so then one is going to say, well, are they any less of a woman? Are they any less of a female? According to this definition, at least the first half of it, you'll say, okay, fine, maybe childbearing as a rule, but not as an individualized issue, would be a decent way of defining it. But there can be exceptions. And do we conclude that those exceptions are not females? Obvious answer is no. But then you get to the second part, distinguished biologically by the production of gametes, ova, which can be fertilized by male. So this is the hypothetical, the potential of the category of species or the subspecies, the sexes within the species. By a general rule, that's what distinguishes them. People are going to say, well, there will be women who are unable to, for whatever the reason, and therefore, are they still female by the definition? I think most people are going to say yes, even though they technically might not adhere to this definition. Then other people are humorously going to bring out that kindergarten cop meme video and say, like, boys have penises and girls have vaginas. To which the obvious response to that is, look, there can be any number of reasons for which there might be outlier examples, birth malformations or accidents in life that, literally, I'm not trying to be facetious, that or cancer issues. So if a boy does not have a penis, is he still a boy? If a girl, does not have, are they still a girl? Seems like the bottom line, if it were me in that chair, I would have said, I would, setting aside these exceptional circumstances, setting aside the outlier cases in which the definition might be in which the legal issue might be the semantic definition of the term woman, by and large, chromosome. That seems like it would be the decent answer. XX would be male, man. XY would be woman. Is it the other way around? XX is woman. My apologies. XX is biological female. XY. That's how the answer would probably go. And you say, look, the ability to give birth, to lay eggs, and et cetera, as noted by the gametes, whatever it was. But then, very interesting and very curious thing, by the way, which some of you might already know, but some of you probably do not. if that is the definition, the female in any species gives birth, carries the eggs. I mean, that might be actually how this actually works. Seahorses. No joke. Let me see which one I'm going to bring up here. This one. Seahorses, people, and their related fish, the needle pipe or whatever it's called. How do seahorses differ from all other animals? Seahorses and their close relatives, sea dragons. There was another one, the needlefish or something I will get to in a second, are the only species in which the male gets pregnant and gives birth. My scientific question is, if it's the only animal, the only species on Earth where this is the, I won't say exception to the rule, but this is just abiding by a different rule, why would they scientifically not be called female? I mean, that's like, it's the only one where the male gets pregnant and gives birth. Is it possible it's the scientists who might have made a mistake on the designation here? I don't know. Male seahorses and sea dragons get pregnant and bear young, a unique adaptation in the animal kingdom. Seahorses, remember the pipefish, that's the word I was looking for. In addition to their iconic appearance, seahorses possess many interesting attributes. Among them are specialized structures in their skins, yada, yada, yada. Their truly remarkable biological claim to fame, however, is that male seahorses and sea dragons get pregnant and bear young, a unique adaptation in the animal kingdom. It's kind of amazing. It doesn't explain why, though. And that's the, after completing an elaborate dance, yada, yada, the female seahorse transfers her mature, see, there, and I guess there we go. That the female, the sex of the animal, still is the one who, according to the definition, produces the eggs, transfers them to the male, and basically the male becomes the receptacle, the carrier. Very interesting. Male seahorse transfer her mature eggs into the male's brood pouch, where they are fertilized. At the end of the gestation period, usually lasting from 2 to 4 weeks, the pregnant male's abdominal area begins to undulate. So this sounds like it's actually just like a technicality of the delivery. It's like the male seahorse is like a test tube into which the female lays the eggs, it gets fertilized, and the male serves no other purpose other than being the receptacle in which the babies grow. Anyways, fascinating, if nobody knew that. Now let's just get back to the stuff of this. So, I mean, that's the semantics. That's the issue. Like there would have been a far better way for Jackson to answer that question. But we are living in a world where laws are predicated on distinguishing men from women, like actual laws, actual court precedent in the case that they were talking about, distinguishing men from women for the purposes of protecting women's rights. And you're getting a Supreme Court recommended nominee who by and large is going to get confirmed, who cannot even explain why she cannot define what a woman is. I mean, how and that might set the precedent. I mean, we don't have to go too far with this. That precedent that was established to protect women's rights, to the extent now that we can't define a woman, well, goodbye to that precedent and goodbye to the protections that precedent was intended to produce for women at large. So it's, I mean, it's shocking, and like it's a sign of where things are. And there are a lot of people who have different takes on this. That this is a troll intended to just deliberately weaponize everything, deliberately muddle everything, befuddle everyone. Some people say it's an outright attack on women's rights. And when you see what's going on with the NCAA, and you see some women, biological women athletes, coming out and saying this is just trampling on our rights, but now you have a nominee to the SCOTUS who's basically saying, who's confirming viva voce in real time, I can't even tell you what a woman is. Then the next question would be, well, how on earth are you going to defend women's rights then? As a justice of the highest court of the land, how on earth are you going to defend women's rights if you can't even define or tell me that you can identify what a woman is? If biological differences didn't exist internally, then you would not need hormone. Well, this is an argument that we were talking about. Like if there were no biological advantage for biological males, they wouldn't set testosterone limits in order to compete, in order for transgender athletes, biological male to female, to compete in biological female sports. You wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that medically, scientifically, biologically recognized threshold if there were not biological differences between the two sexes that procured, by and large, exceptions aside, one, a physiological advantage over the other. Anyhow, so that's it. You take it, you take it to where it goes, and it goes to a world of madness where biological males, albeit transitioning, albeit who abide by the NCAA imposed rules, who've spent their entire life acquiring the muscle mass, bone density, height advantage, reach advantage, after 1 year of transition therapy where they've gotten their testosterone during that year below a certain, recognized threshold, because above which you would have an unfair advantage, they are competing with biological females, and one person's choice to transition, and as much as they have that right, because they do, is now trumping an entire category of humans who didn't have any choice in this, and who are seeing their rights compromised, trampled on, as a result of someone else's decision, someone else's life choice that procures them an advantage, and I would even dare say a recognized unfair advantage, which is why the NCAA had to put in rules to temper that unfair advantage that they recognize exists by pure physiology. Know the vlog. So that's it. The interesting thing, the seahorse, it still abides by the definition of female, in that the female of the species still produces the eggs. They just happen to put them into the male's pouch, where they then get fertilized and grow. I mean, I guess it's no different than which animal is it? Well, I guess some of the male animals, they protect their babies in their mouth or whatever. I don't know. Nobody frets about whether a car that has no wheels removed is still a car. These questions are the essence of critical theory. The goal isn't to find truth, but ruthlessly criticize such that finding truth is impossible. Can't disagree with it. By the way, fun fact, ostriches don't hide their head in the sand. Fun fact also, an ostrich one-on-one with a lion is a fair fight, 50-50, from what I've been told from an ostrich farmer. Eric the Viking, thank you very much. So that's it. The confirmation hearings are continuing. We're going to discuss that with Jenna Ellis tonight, Donald Trump's lawyer, because we're going to have some fun discussion tonight. So that's it. But it's I can't there's the issue. I mean, even defining pornography it's a purely subjective, a linguistic term. I would say obscenity. It wasn't pornography, I don't think. So, and obscenity is a purely subjective term. I mean, I know that one person's obscene is another person's Saturday night. One person's obscene is another person's comedy. But then there is levels of obscenity that, I would say should be objective, but when it comes to art, who knows, so long as it's consenting adults. I mean, that's the bottom line. There was this artist, I forget who he was, very famous photographer who did very peculiar things to himself involving the American flag. Someone in the chat, if you guys know who this is, I forget his name. I'd Google it, but it involved like doing things to his own body, with his own body, in the presence of an American flag, and doing things, people considered it absolutely obscene. I believe he also urinated on a religious symbol, for art. But anyhow, the obscenity, art, these things, admittedly, I think those are more subjective than things which can be biologically, by, Jackson's own admission, recognized. But what a consenting adult decides to do to himself, to the extent it doesn't hurt other people, that should be up to that person. When it comes into the P word or the CP word, very different world. In saying that they want you to accept their science when they don't accept science. That is part of the irony in all of this. Trust the science, except when it tells you that there are biological differences between the sexes. This whole thing is a semantic debate. Gender is different than sex, period. Gender, I think people are confounding gender with sexuality, which is how one feels about themselves, how one feels about who they're attracted to, their preferences. Gender and the way it's being used, to me, is a question of preference, and that's absolutely up to every individual human being. People confounding gender with sex, with gender with biological differences, That's where you take the subjective and try to infuse it with the otherwise objective, setting aside exceptional examples where, hermaphrodites, I don't exactly know how that works genetically. But, 99% of the time, you can identify a member of the canine species, and then 1% of the time, you might make a mistake. And yeah, it's not about boobs, it's not about penises, it's not about vaginas, because every now and again, people can look differently, but nonetheless be something else. I mean, we're, again, confounding visual appearances, confounding choices, preferences with underlying biology. Oh, sorry, hold on. Didn't want to bring up this one here. Didn't realize how wide-ranging your vlog streams are. Appreciate your tangents. Well, I'm just watching I'm watching the hearings, and it is interesting because it does broach other issues. These are linguistic debates at the end of the day, but it goes back to the Zenonian paradox. Yeah, okay. Conceptually, I can never get from point A to point B because to get there, I have to get through an infinite many midway points. But no one asked me to count the midway points. You didn't ask me to do the impossible. You just asked me to do the possible. And by the way, I think Zeno's paradox on the arrow in flight is never in motion. I think that also breaks down now because I do think that we've identified like the smallest indivisible unit of measurement, which I think is the Planck, if I'm not mistaken. So I think even that paradox now has been disproven by science, where there will be segment, what is the word? Like not atomic, but there will be movements along certain minimal particles or minimal units of measurement. A woman can breastfeed a baby if around babies for a while, even though she hasn't had a baby herself. That's unique. I would say, and typically a woman characteristic. Well, I don't think men lactate, but I do know that there are situations where men produce fluid from their nipples, but typically it's during puberty. All right, super sticker. Thank you very much. Let me see now if there's anything in the chat on the locals that I will get into. Gender is the character manifestation of sex. That is mighty pay. Gender is the character manifestation of sex. Okay, I'm not sure what that means, but my 2 cents. Gender is preference, and there's nothing wrong with it. Everyone should live the way they want to live. But gender is not sex. Period. And then there may be exceptions. There may be outlier examples, but anyhow, that's it. So the Supreme Court nominee cannot define what a woman is and is going to be expected to interpret law that was intended to protect women's rights. Okay, see how that works out. Identification should eliminate sex, gender, and just go with chromosomes. I think so. Oh, but now in the chat, are there any exceptions to the XX or XY chromosome? And I mean, I agree with that. Don't pick gender, don't pick sex on your passport. It's just chromosomes. Although, I guess the question is going to be, how do they measure the chromosomes? How do they determine the chromosomes of a newborn baby? I don't even know how you actually do that. Can you do it from the umbilical cord, and you're going to have to wait? You're going to have to wait until they get the results back from the umbilical cord to say if your baby's XX or XY, notwithstanding visual indications that might give you a hint as to where it's probably going. Yep. Okay, so that's it. All right, so that's SCOTUS. I don't think I had anything more on that. On the let me see here, the seahorses we got to. Yeah, 1 hour in. It's a good time to get to Project Veritas. Let me just see what we got in the chat here. Sharing screen was canceled. No, that's fine. Oh, hold on. Someone just said something here. There is an XXY and XXX, but the probability is 1 in 100,000. So hold on, but that's not all that little. That would be 1 in 100,000 would be 10 in a million, which is going to be 10 in a million. It's going to be 1,000 in a billion. But there's going to be a lot of people like that on Earth. So hold on. What does that manifest as? XXY and XXX. Hold on, people. Can't leave on unanswered questions. XXX. Well, there was XXS Taxon. That's a rapper. Chromosome. Let's see here. Triple X syndromes. Okay, this is interesting. So this is from Mayo Clinic. Let's bring this up. We're going to answer a question. If I've got the question, guaranteed other people have the same question. Let me just bring this chat out so I can. Oh, is that? I mean, okay, and I don't know if that's a inappropriate, if that's an offensive, derogatory term anymore. And I used it myself and being facetious somewhat here. Hold on. Hermaphrodite. I mean, maybe that is okay. So triple X syndrome, also called trisomy. Oh, is that Down syndrome? Triple X or 47. It's a genetic disorder that affects 1 in 1,000 females. Females normally have 2 X chromosomes in the cells, 1 X from each parent. In triple X, a female has 3 X chromosomes. Many girls and women with triple X syndrome don't experience symptoms or have only mild symptoms, and other symptoms may be more apparent, possibly including developmental delays and learning disabilities. Seizure, kidney problems occur in small number of girls. Interesting. Symptoms. Delayed development, learning disabilities, behavioral problems, psychological problems. Okay, so hold on. Now let's go to XXY and see what that does. So this looks like Klinefelter syndrome, not Klinefelter. Klinefelter syndrome is a genetic condition that results when a boy is born with an extra copy of the X chromosome. It's a genetic condition affecting males and it often isn't diagnosed until adulthood. Symptoms. Let's get to the symptoms. Signs may include weak muscles, slow motor development, taking longer than average to sit up, crawl, or walk, delay in speaking, problems at birth, such as testicles that haven't descended into the scrotum. Boys and teenagers, taller than average, longer legs, shorter torso, absent, delayed, incomplete puberty, small penis, weak bones, low energy. Interesting. Men, low sperm count. Okay. Went to see a doctor. Well, I think I would have seen a doctor. I mean, that's interesting. Okay. Now we know. Klinefelter syndrome. I presume named after the man who discovered it or the man who first suffered from it, Klinefelter. All right. So anyways, that's it. That's the end of our discussion on that. There are women that have XY chromosomes but are androgen insensitive due to it. Okay, interesting. Well, anyways, I know the limitation. One day we'll have a doctor who might be able to discuss this. 7,000 people out of 7 billion is rare, true, but there are still 7,000 of them. It's the old expression, you know, if you're 1 in a million, even in certain countries, that means there's still 1,000 others just like you. Okay, what else we got here? There's a rare condition where a person with XY chromosomes produces female hormones and grows up with all female organs and appearances, but is infertile. Many don't know they have it. Okay, let's move on to Project Veritas, people. Oh, and let's see if there's anything on Rumble rants. Hold on, peeps. Let's just do this. Kenji Brown Jackson is done. I can take that off the list. FBI, massive corruption. Okay, Rumble rants. I don't see any, but I see everyone on the Rumble chat talking about this. Okay. Okay. And I love this expression. I don't know if I made it up because there is spontaneous creation, but there are no exceptions to rules. There are just other subsets of rules that we did not know existed. I was thinking about this, like I'm trying to teach a kid how to play chess. I was like, okay, pawns can only move forward. No exception. Unless they become a queen or another piece, and then they can move as that piece. In which case, they're no longer a pawn, so it's not an exception to the rule. It's just an overriding or subset of a rule. Pawns can only move forward 1 square at a time, unless it's an opening move. In which case, it's not an exception to the rule. It's just a subset to the rule. Pawns can move 2 squares only when opening, and only then. If they move 1, they can't move 2 ever again. Not an exception. It's just a subset to the rule. And then the en passant, which many people don't know, which is if you have a pawn, if you have a pawn of an enemy pawn that is on what would be the second row that the pawn moves to, that pawn can knock off the pawn diagonally only on that next move. I hope everyone understands what I mean. There's a pawn on the file to which a pawn is now moving 2 squares on its first move. That is the only time an enemy pawn can knock a pawn off diagonally and then take the place 1 square before. En passant. Again, not an exception to the rule. It's just another rule that many people don't know. So even when it comes to these things, you know, the rule, I think, is still the rule biologically, definitionally. There just may be other rules that might look like exceptions, but just be subsets to the rule. But in life, I like to say there are no exceptions to the rules, just another set of rules that you might not have been aware of. Okay. Obsess and abuse all women for a few hundred Twitter feelings. That is a global cult of abusers. Okay, I hope you're not talking about me because I don't think you are. But yeah, ready for James. Let's do it. No, she's going to be a Supreme Court justice applying laws that were intended to protect women's rights, and she cannot give a definition to the group of humans that she's going to be on the highest bench of the land, applying law to protect. Okay. Okay. I don't make these glib jokes. There are some things where I have a good sense of humor, just so everybody appreciates. It is, well, first of all, another interesting rule of chess. The pawn does not need to turn into a queen. It can turn into any other piece on the table except a pawn. And there are some great chess puzzles where the move is actually not to queen the pawn, it's to knight the pawn or bishop. No, it's actually only knight, because every other piece is redundant with the queen except the knight. As I've been trying to get back into chess, and I'm just not good anymore. I'm not good, and it bothers me. I hate losing. And I'm playing on the app. It's called where is it on my phone here? Chess. That's a great name for it. It's called chess.com. My account is Viva Fry, if anybody wants to try to meet me there and play. And I was thinking about doing something exclusive to locals, like a weekly 5-minute blitz game. I hate losing at chess because it's the only game in the world that's played table open. You see everything. And if you don't see it, it's because of your brain, not because of anything else. There's no cheating in chess. There's no, you should have told me that you were doing this in chess. It's all there for you to see. And if you don't see it, you have only yourself to blame. Okay, let's get the Project Veritas. Project Veritas, people.